When we talk about meditation, I don't think it's a big surprise or a newsflash to any of you watching this video, all the benefits that meditation can bring to our lives on so many levels: physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, relationally. It certainly helps us develop greater clarity of mind to understand how our mind works. Also, it can help us open our heart, help us be able to respond better rather than react in certain situations. But I want to talk today in this video about how it actually changes the brain. And before we dive in, I want to point out that this video on YouTube, if you like this video and others, please subscribe. Make sure you hit that little bell notification button so that you don't miss out on future videos that Margaret and I are doing. And of course, if you like this video, please hit the like button. So, meditation changes the brain. I first learned about this many, many years ago through the work of Jon KabatZinn. You may be familiar with Jon KabatZinn because back in the late 70s, he created a program called mindfulness-based stress reduction. And he did this through the stress reduction clinic at the University of Massachusetts Medical Center. Now, Kabat-Zinn had been a long-time meditator and in the Buddhist tradition, but what he wanted to do is create a program to help people who are experiencing extreme health risks as a result of not being able to deal with stress very well. And, one of the things that happens when when we do meditation, is it can help lower blood pressure and impact us so much on a physical level. So he created an 8-week program. And what he did is he presented it in a very secular way. He took away any of the references to the ancient wisdom traditions and offered it in a way that anyone could understand it and practice it. Well, because he was with the University of Massachusetts Medical Center, he had the opportunity to do testing. So at the beginning of the 8-week class, they did MRIs on many of the participants, and then they did them again at the end. So what did they find out? They found out when they did these MRI brain scans that the area in the limbic system, the amygdala, which is responsible for fight or flight response or freeze response, had begun to shrink a little bit. It had shrunk. They also noticed that the gray matter in the prefrontal cortex had increased. There was new gray matter there. And they noticed that there were new neural pathways that had formed in the brain. The brain, in just 8 weeks, had literally began rewiring. Now, in subsequent studies, they have found that this process begins as soon as 3 weeks. Just doing 30 minutes of meditation a day began to do this. This is remarkable. So what does this mean? What it means is that when we get activated in some way that tends to stimulate a stress response, we don't necessarily have to react in the ways that we have done in the past. That limbic system is maybe not as reactive, and we're able to actually think our way through it. That's what the role of the prefrontal cortex is. So this was really interesting because many of you know I do work with people who are in addiction recovery. I teach meditation and yoga and do groups, and not only in various treatment centers, but also one-on-one. Well, I went to a conference many years ago that I was presenting at, and while I was there, it was like 4 days, I attended a lot of the other presentations to get continuing education units. And a major presenter down there was a man by the name of Dr. Daryl Inaba. Well, Daryl Inaba is considered the world's leading neurobiologist on addiction. And one day he said something that really got my attention. And he was talking about craving. Now, of course, anybody who's in early recovery really struggles with triggers and craving and this urge to use. Well, the reason it happens is it takes months and months of abstinence and a strong recovery plan in order to get past these cravings, get past this desire to use. In fact, the information that I've gotten from people who work in the field is it may take 8, 9, 10 months or so before we start seeing really meaningful shifts. So here's what he said. He said that when someone gets a craving to use, this strong desire, like, I gotta use, and the reason this happens is that the amygdala gets fired into this kind of response, and that's the habit pattern of reactivity that they go to. He said that when that person doesn't use, the next time they get a craving, the craving is lessened. It may not be that noticeable, it may still be difficult, but that craving is not as strong as it was before. And then the next time they get the craving and they don't use, whatever they did to avoid using, maybe they called up somebody, maybe they took a nap or went for a walk or went to the gym or meditated or did yoga. They did something else besides use. Every time they do that, these cravings will lessen. And why is that? Because when we don't use, we're building a new pathway, a new neural pathway. And over time, that craving, that desire to use, eventually dissipates and goes away because there's a brand new pathway. To me, this was amazing to understand how the dynamics of neurobiology worked. And it was a really great example. So this has to do with meditation because meditation allows us to observe our experience with curiosity and compassion. So if I get a sensation in my body, like anxiety, fear, anything like that, I can simply pause and bring my attention into my body and notice that sensation and notice that, yes, it's uncomfortable, but I can just soften my breath and breathe and just allow it to be there for a while. And what I'll notice is that sensation will go away eventually. There's a term called urge surfing, where you imagine you're on a wave that eventually dissipates. I did a whole video on that that's on YouTube. You can check it out. Also, we can notice the stories in our heads. We can notice our brain going, uh-oh, this is too much. You're just an addict. Whatever the story is, we can notice it and just allow that thought to come and to go by bringing our attention back to our breath. So by doing this, we are rewiring the brain, and it's impacting our nervous system dramatically. So this is, I think, really, really important. A lot of people look at meditation as strictly an opportunity to relax, to chill out, and it will certainly do that. But by doing a practice, whether we're struggling with addiction, anxiety, depression, any kind of compulsive behavior, any kind of difficulty, by using meditation, we can start changing our behavior by letting the practice help us rewire the brain. So I hope that's helpful to you.